Hello. I hope everybody's doing good tonight. Dina is on her way to pick up our car from the shop. We had a little issue with an electrical problem. I hope everybody's doing good. So, I got a new co host tonight. She's blonde instead of brunette. As you can see, that's Maggie. Maggie is sitting up here waiting actually for her mother to come back. She's facing the window there where she can see out, but she's leaning right against me. Maggie, watch her, see if she can get her. Come here, Maggie. Oh no, no, right! Don't lay on the computer. Oh, no, 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 no! Don't lay on the computer. Okay. She's been in the pond all day. She's still a little bit wet. She's been in the pond. It's like 100 degrees up here today. It's crazy hot. And she's still, believe it or not, labs, they really, really hold their water in their fur. And she has done that. Now, she's laying just right now, she's laying straight out beside me. And she weighs like 95 pounds. But Medina's gone to Fayetteville, which is right up the road from us, to pick up our car that they had an electrical problem we had to get worked on. It's the way they do. Cars, they have 150,000 miles on them, and they or 160, they develop issues. But we haven't had a car payment so long, we just can't stomach going out and buying a new car, nor would I want to try to pay for it now in today's economy. We have a lot to talk about tonight, and I don't know if y'all followed the here Lauren from Fox 21, and she did a great job in the hearing of Barry Morphew. But I'm gonna tell you, there's a lot of circumstantial evidence, but I'm really afraid what the judge's decision is going to be. I really am. They did not, unless we don't know how much we're missing because Lauren is typing an overall consensus of what these officers say. But I was really disappointed. I was really thinking that it was going to be some big something large that we didn't know about. Uh, I'm I'm worried about it, and we're going to highlight a couple of things why that really I'm worried about it. Um, Prelims are usually they last about 30 minutes to an hour, and they are, so and so was seen by a witness, so and so was caught with evidence, so and so was, you know, was this and that, and you could put your finger on it and say, well, there's just no doubt he's guilty. We're going to go to court, but there's a lot of circumstantial evidence. I didn't see anybody say that yes, we saw him take evidence. Yes, he told so and so. There was blood. There was evidence. Everything. What we got is a bunch of stuff entered into evidence that, um, is stuff about foreign DNA of suspects that are sex offenders, and that is scary right there. That one is how the DNA get there, and another thing is it muddies the water big time, and we're going to talk about that. But the judge may look over the big case and may have it in front of him and say, the judge is not supposed to. I'm going to tell you the law. The judge is not supposed to take the case report, read it, and then decide. He's supposed to only decide on what's presented before him. Now, because he is a finder of fact, that's what the judge is. So he's supposed to listen to all this kind of stuff, and and then um, and then come up with something. But let's go over some of these things that I copied today, and I tried to listen. I tried to sit all day and go through this, and she did a great job. If nothing else, we need to all go over to that website or her YouTube page or her Twitter, Facebook, and really congratulate her on a job well done, because it's not easy to sit in court and listen to anything and then copy it down too. And she did a fantastic job. Um, but these are things like this that bother me. And here she talks about it. Says a letter from Agent Doug addresses Chahil sent on May 19th, 2024, and refers to the partial profile DNA from Suzanne Morphew's glove box that had 3 confirmed matches to unsolved sexual assaults. So they already have Barry's DNA. It's not his. So they're saying, now how did that DNA? Well, it says a partial profile. It's not saying absolute, but it's enough to create doubt. If I was sitting on a jury and I didn't know anything about this case, but what I was hearing, that would bring up tremendous doubt for me, reasonable doubt for me. And the defense called Agent, I'll say Cahill, I don't know how he pronounces his name, to the stand. He is being asked about DNA swab from Suzanne Morphew's glove box. And this is from Barry Morphew's attorney, not the state, okay? This is huge, people, I'm telling you. If this does not create reasonable doubt in the minds of a jury, unless when they go to trial they say, we tracked his truck, which I was expecting to hear in the preliminary hearing. I was expecting to hear that they tracked that truck to a location, and of course they said the truck was on airplane mode. So what? I mean, I accidentally turned my phone when I was carrying one on airplane mode about half the day. All that is just conjecture, and that is circumstantial evidence. Well, he was out of pocket from this to this. I never saw anything that I could put my finger on and say, that's this. You know what I'm saying? Real Gonzo, welcome, buddy. It's good to see you back. But I was expecting to see them say he went over to this place and he stayed an hour off the grid, and we're not sure what he did. And there's just not enough. I'm freezing up for some reason. To me, I didn't hear anything. I'll be honest with you. When I read this whole thing, and I believe he's guilty of sin, but when I read it, I said, I told Medina, I said, oh man, I'm scared. I said, I'm afraid that judge is going to declare no bill on him, dismiss it for lack of prosecution, because I didn't read one single thing in that whole transcript that Lauren posted that was enough to me to get him before trial. I didn't. And I hate it, because me and you and all of us, we feel like he's guilty, but they didn't put it before the judge. And like I said, the judge is not supposed to read these case files and then decide that he is guilty or needs to go to trial. He is supposed to listen to what they present to him and be the finder of fact. That's it. I got to show y'all something. Look at that. I got a dog and a cat right at my feet. You saw my old nasty feet. But, they have to prove it. We know it. I feel like I know it, but I was very disappointed that no really great object of thing was presented. Now, he did say something that was kind of weird, and I felt like it was a Chris Watts moment. Barry said he told one of the officers, he said, if you'll grant me 100% immunity, I'll tell you everything. So that kind of either said he knows what happened to Suzanne, or there's some bigger picture here. And that's what, that was the nearest they got to a confession, I think. But that's not good enough. I don't think that's enough to a jury's not going to be able. I don't even know if a jury would be able to hear it. This is another one. He asked if they're aware of taking consideration for the unknown male DNA on the bike grips and Suzanne's rear cushion and glove box. They have an unknown DNA. What that is doing, it is muddying the water for trial. And it's going to make the police look like they didn't do their job and they didn't go that extra mile to try to find out that maybe they had their mind made up. And I'm going to tell you something that disturbed me worse than anything on this whole thing. When they said that the CBI, the Colorado Bureau of Investigation, ate steak at Barry's house, went over there and had a cookout with Barry and ate steak, you know, with him. What in the world, guys? I mean, that is so inappropriate. That is so inappropriate. You don't do that. That, I'm telling you what, that it floored me. People would get fired where I work doing stuff like that. I'm telling you, they would be fired for having supper with a suspect. That absolutely is just crazy. Somebody asked what happens to the DA, Linda Stanley, having enough. Well, I don't know. I don't know what they didn't present. I believe they just did not present enough to get him for a jury. I really don't. Unless we're not hearing all the conversation. There may have been a bunch of conversation that was presented, but I just don't see it. I really don't. And I hate to say it. Medina said, she said, are you going to say that? And I said, hey, I can only tell you what I believe and what I heard. Now, I would love to get Lauren to come on the channel and tell us, hey, I believe they said this and that. But I was hoping there would be some aha moment when we'd all say, yeah, I see, that's it. That's it. But, and you know what, another thing too that I heard was the pool actually was under that room they stayed at in that hotel, which creates some doubt even that smell might have came up through, I mean, that's just big circumstantial anyway. That's not even saying they never established anything, any points to me. They didn't. Let me make sure. I can't tell exactly where I'm at over here. It said Agent Cahill is being shown DNA report explaining CODIS, and which nationwide DNA database. Typically, people who have been convicted of a felony are at the request of law enforcement. Knows and unknowns get to be put in CODIS. And they're saying, they were just explaining, you can't put everybody's DNA in CODIS. Like the DNA they found on the bicycle, if they don't have a suspect for, it's not Barry, it's not, they don't know right off if they can admit that stuff to CODIS to find out. I think they probably will be able to in the long run, and they may find out who it belongs to. But the glove box thing, I guess that they had enough that they did, and they found out, and that is the weirdest thing to me. They find out they have partial DNA that belongs to an unknown sexual assault offender. So that is, if you're talking about muddy in the water, that it doesn't matter. That muddies the water. It's going to create doubt, and then it's going to create reasonable. I don't know if it's going to be reasonable, but it's going to create doubt in that jury if they allow it to get in, if the judge takes it that far. And we go back to this, and I wanted to say it again. The letter to Doug says he addressed it and refers to partial profile DNA to 3 confirmed matches of an unsolved sexual assaults. Defense stand being asked a DNA swab from Susan Morphy's glove box. I mean, the darn of defense is asking this. That is giant. That's just putting some reasonable, if nothing else, if the judge says, oh, yeah, we got enough, send it to the jury, I guarantee you he's going to have expert witnesses going to say that this could have been that partial DNA could have been from that. We know it's not Barry. How did they get in the car? How did they get in the car? How did that profile get in the car? It wasn't Barry. It wasn't Suzanne. How? Well, how? I want to know that myself. Yeah, and going back, it says here, according to forensic scientist report, there's an unknown male DNA on the seat of Suzanne Morphew's bike, and they knew if there was individuals that had matches to DNA, they would have swab sample done. He said yes. I, I'm 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 telling you, folks. It and the thing is, they're going to have arguments for this case. They're gonna argue. The defense is going. They're not having any more evidence submitted. The way I understand it, they're not going to submit any more evidence, and this is why I think the state's got a problem. All they're going to do now is the state's going to argue points. That's why they believe he should go to trial, and the defense is going to come right up front and say, Judge, we got 3 profiles from an unknown sexual assault offender that has not been known yet, but he's been involved in all these 3 rapes out here in these different cities in her car. In her car. That right there is reasonable doubt, Judge. We don't feel like right now that and he said it in here, Judge, we don't feel the state has met their burden of proof, and it's on the state, because regardless in our society, you are innocent until proven guilty, and that is by the law standpoint. Sure, they'll put you in jail, they'll hold you without bond on a charge, and everybody can say, well, you're just making him guilty. No, the court says the state must prove it. The defense could have gone at the last thing and said, you know what, Judge, we don't even believe they've proved their point, so we're not going to submit any evidence. And you know what? If it had been real bad, the judge said, you're exactly right, because the state has the burden of proof, not the defense. And that's just the way it is. Let me make sure I'm in the right spot here. Yeah, see, here they come up. Attorney Drew Nielsen, I guess it is, said, doesn't think the state have met the burden of proof. She's asking for Morphew to not sit in jail. The judge said he couldn't make a decision today, and the court recessed at 2:30. And you know, I think what's going to happen is that the judge is going to go over, and this is another thing here. Said here, Judge Patrick Murphy said he isn't going to make a decision today. He took 25 pages of notes, and there's over 20 hours of testimony, and it looks like it's going to have to talk with the attorneys about the next hearing that will be set. And the next hearing, he said, it will be his decision. That's what it'll be. You'll have the prosecution to get up there and tell why they think he should be bound over to trial. And this is not guilty or innocence. It's just the fact that the judge believes there's enough evidence against Barry to send it to trial. That's all it is. Now, he doesn't have to prove guilt. He just has to prove, the state has to prove that it is a reasonable or a probable cause to think he committed a crime and send it to trial. Now, I'm sure, saying here, I'm thinking DA could be, the DNA could be from a mechanic, bike salesman. Yes, but you know what they're saying? The partial DNA on the glove box is a suspect in 3 rapes, and they don't even know who it is. Partial DNA. It's not saying the complete DNA, but it's enough of that DNA to say that's this guy, not Barry. That's this guy, not Suzanne. It is bad news for the state. And here's the thing. I'm sure the the FBI, the DEA, at least we would have done this in law enforcement if everybody that possibly could have been in that car, from the mechanics to car wash to everything, we would try to find them and get their DNA so it could eliminate them as suspects. Every police officer that was on the scene, they'll take their DNA and make sure that their DNA is not their DNA that's in the car or on the bike. Everybody that's out there on the side of the road that they can put their finger on, that they know about, they'll get their DNA and eliminate them as suspects. But when you have a person that is involved already in 3 sexual assaults, their profile is a partial DNA profile, then you have got to look at those people, look at that thing and say, could it be that person that did this? Could it be? That's reasonable doubt. Yes, I think that it is reasonable doubt. I think at very least it's going to be reasonable doubt. Now, here's the thing. I'm saying this. I wasn't in the courtroom. I didn't see the testimony from the guy that gave it. I didn't see if there was any more testimony around there that we're not hearing. But I really believe Lauren would have posted it if it was something like, we've tracked his GPS to a site where, and the car stayed there for 2 hours, or we checked up here and we found this. It's just, I didn't see anything that I was expecting. I was expecting an aha moment saying, got you, Barry. That's what I was expecting. I was expecting that, something's gonna. I didn't see anything. If y'all read something, or y'all know something that was in there that I missed, and you can tell me what that they've said this, and you would make you believe that he even did it. Other than the fact she had an affair, and that was motive right there. Okay, that was motive. Now, he denies knowing about it, but so that didn't tell me anything. He denies knowing about it. There's motive for him to do something, and he had opportunity. Okay, but I don't see any type of evidence that there was violence in the home. The one of the police, what I read was, they said the bedroom door appeared to be, looked like it might have been busted open at one time. You know, I don't know that. Uh, 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 you know, I don't know. I don't know if they were, when they were gathered. I know they're indicating they were gathered maybe at the time they did the search warrant on the house. That's what I'm gathering. When they had the vehicles there, they had the house there. I don't think it would be, if they did it any other time, it wouldn't really be evidentiary, in my opinion. Um, see, glove box, back seat, and bicycle seat. I don't. They didn't indicate that the same DNA was on the bike. I don't think it was. No, and I'll tell you it wasn't, because they said the DNA on the glove box was, the partial DNA on the glove box was a link to unknown sex offender, just like before they caught Ted Bundy. They had DNA, but it was an unknown sex offender that had done these in a couple of cities. It's not just one. It was like Tampa and all over the place. So it was a serial guy. They hit one here, and one here over here. Um, but the one on the bicycle seat and the grips, they're calling an unknown person, DNA from an unknown person. They're not saying it's the same guy. Um, you know, but let's go away from that. Let's just say we take what we've heard or read through Lauren, of what you read on there, apart from this DNA, these DNA, unknown DNA and the sex offender DNA. Do you think by reading that the state put forth enough evidence to send this case to trial? I mean, you're talking about capital, you're talking about murder, first degree murder. That's premeditated with forethought. Uh, did you hear anything or read anything? And I would love to have Lauren respond to this or come on and tell me, yes, they were talking about this, or phone data that led him into this way. They said that he went near a mine. They talked about going up near a mine and then coming back. But I think that mine was checked and nothing was found there. Uh, I believe that he should be brought to trial, but I have seen this more than once in cases that I have been involved in, like I was the evidence agent on that case, like a drug case, where I was the evidence agent. That means when the evidence was turned over to me, I took it to the lab, had it analyzed, brought it back, held it for trial. And the judge hears it all, and they say, you know what? There was cocaine found in the car, but the state did not prove that it was his cocaine. They didn't find that maybe he knew about it or whatever, and they throw it out. And I'm like, Judge, it's his car. The cocaine was under the seat, and sure, there was 2 or 3 other people in the car, but you know what I mean? They say they couldn't prove it. I didn't feel like they had enough proof. And if that happens, um, it's not saying that it will go away completely, unless the judge dismisses it with prejudice. If he does it with prejudice, that means they can't bring it up again. But I would think, unless something else, other evidentiary stuff was found, say they found her body, the DNA on the body, it had a rope, I'm just saying, they found the body, she's got a rope around her neck, and the DNA on the rope is varies, or they have a witness say, yes, he helped dispose of the body, and blah, blah, blah. And even this DNA being found doesn't mean that the DNA, that Barry can't still be involved. But you got this DNA on the glove box. DNA to me is the most damaging to the state's case. You know, Paula, I'm going to highlight yours. Read this. You wasn't expecting a lot more. Like proof Suzanne was definitely dead. And Barry actually did it. I think the state was struggling here with a capital murder case. You're probably right, but I was expecting more because I have testified at probably in hundreds, if not thousands, of trials in my whole law enforcement career, 33 years, and we would never, ever, ever brought a case to a arrest unless we could put more evidence out there. I just was not satisfied with that. I wasn't. Hello, Cheat No More. PA agents said they never even thoroughly searched the land around the house for heaven's sake. Wow. Yeah, I just don't, you know. Right, but it's enough of a profile, Maui. Here's the thing. It's enough of a profile to say that it belongs to an unknown sexual offender that has hit in 2 or 3 big cities. It's enough for them to say that. So I don't think they would have came out and said that, especially the state would say that. We're talking about the CBI, FBI. They brought this out. So if the defense had their own people do DNA out there and find this, then you could say, maybe, something's up. But we're talking about the state, the prosecution is finding this out, you know. I just would like, and I'm going to reach out to Lauren and see if she'll answer my question to find out if, if there maybe I'm missing something. but I read every tweet, uh, message there. I read every single one of them that she put on there, and I didn't see any huge thing. DA Stanley said the DNA proves Suzanne was deceased and that was premeditation. I don't understand how she happened to present the case for. Yeah, it was. I didn't see no aha moment. That's all I'm saying. Sure, her phone was never found, and if it is ever found, uh, that might be the aha type evidence that is is presented, and you know they could charge him federally or whatever like that. But I just want somebody like Lauren or whoever to tell me, oh no, you're missing the point here. This is what they found. It wasn't put in her notes if it was, or if it was, I missed it completely. Um, it is, you have to look at it this way. The judge may turn around and say, you know what, this is a lot bigger case than I need to decide. So I'm going to go ahead and send it to a jury, and let's let the jury decide if the evidence is there. And I hope if they do that, I hope they do. But I hope the state comes up with something more than what they presented at the preliminary hearing, and hopes or they'll never win this case. Not that I've seen. Um, I hope that Barry knows the right people. None of the evidence makes sense. Different DNA on the bike and the car, mid DNA results. It's hard to plant DNA. DNA one, um, you have to get saliva or semen or blood DNA. It deteriorates after a time being. It's not like it's going to be there forever. Um, if it's you can do touch DNA also, and but it's just hard. It would be super hard, I think, to plant it. I've heard a lot of people say, "Oh, well, cops do this and the cops do that." I tell you, I worked with I worked with a police department with about 350 guys. I worked with one with about 75, and I worked with one about 50 guys. And I worked with guys that actually went to prison. Police went to prison, but they went to prison for doing other stuff, not corruption on duty. It's hard. I've never seen out and out corruption like that, planting evidence or whatever. If I did, I'd put them in jail. Um, yeah, he wanted immunity. He'd only brush up against her, didn't try to hurt her. Yeah, I read that. Um, he is the only one with motive. You're right. He does have motive. I believe if they can prove he knew about the boyfriend, which I believe he did, and I believe there is circumstantial evidence. But when you have a circumstantial evidence case, first off, there's not this circumstantial evidence they have is not that circumstantial. They have no proof he ever struck her. He says, I brushed up against her. No proof they ever struck her. No proof that there's a body that I've seen. If they have proof there is a body, they should have told today in there, hey, we found this. We found that. Sure, they can put this. There's a money issue, a jealousy issue with an affair, but didn't. I didn't see any proof. I wanted to see proof. I think sure it's circumstantial, and people are convicted of circumstantial evidence all the time, but I didn't see a whole lot of it. I mean, if what I was hoping they were going to say was, we found a large blood stain in the house, or we found a large amount of blood somewhere else that was Suzanne's, or we found, uh, blood splatter in the room, or we have his cell phone or GPS tracking up to a certain place in the woods, and he turns it on airplane mode, and he was gone for 2.5, 3 hours, and then he clicks it back on, or we found out that he was having an affair with so and so, or something. But I didn't see it. And they never talked about who he tried to bribe. He's charged with that. They never talked about that. So I don't know if that's going to be another thing. Yeah, Mal, you're talking about Scott Peterson. Yes, but here's the thing with Scott Peterson. They found concrete blocks in a boat that he was in the water, the same area the body washed up in a period of time. They found concrete blocks in the boat, and he had a search history on his computer where he searched stuff for it, which, there was a whole lot more circumstantial evidence than that. And yes, it is. But, uh, you know, listen, there's no one on here. I'll say that. There's no one on our whole people that are on our subscribers or anything. There's nobody that wants to see Barry Morton, Morphew, convicted and sent to prison for the rest of his life than I do for the murder of Suzanne. There's nobody on here that wants that more than I do. But I did not see that enough in the hearing, at least that came through with Lauren, to send it to trial, in my opinion. I would have, if I was that judge, and I don't know what all was said that was not coming through Lauren, but I would have a big time hard problem of just what I read. Uh, no, you're right, Maui. The burden does not have to be that high from prelim, but it has to be that you have to create. It can't have a reasonable doubt. The judge can't sit back and say, "Well, you know what? He is probably guilty, and I see a lot of stuff that kind of circumstantial." And the state, they wouldn't arrest somebody unless they were guilty. I've seen it too much. They'll drop. I hope they send it to trial. I do. I hope they do. But I think that DNA is a big problem. The tranquilizer gun, tip on the tranquilizer gun, they established that. That's good. That's real good. But they never established that he fired it. They never established that. Um, you know, it'd be great if they had a body. That would probably eliminate about half of my doubts. But like I said, there's nobody in here on all of y'all that would be want him put in jail, want him convicted more than I do. But I've got to look at it from law enforcement standpoint and the fact I did go to law school. I'm not a practicing attorney. I didn't take the bar. I didn't even graduate. I went 2 years and decided this ain't for me, and went home and went back into law enforcement. I missed it. Too bad. The going to trials and doing all this and standing up for somebody I know that's guilty was a real big problem for me. Judging the hot restricting media, public access within the law. He may send it to grand jury with only prosecution has a preemption case. Right. And, I hope he does send it to a grand jury. That would be even better. Let 19 people look it over, and then they decide, and that takes the heat off of everybody. But, um, yes, he's a hunter. But, here's what we got to think of this. And here is yeah, I was very intrigued too with the asking for immunity. That to me was a big thing. That was almost like I'll tell you a whole bunch of stuff a lot of people are going to get in trouble about. I just want immunity, or I'll tell you everything, but I want immunity. I don't know what he meant by that, but that was almost the closest to. It's the closest to a confession that they got right there, in my opinion. But here's why, and we all want Barry to face trial for this. We all do. I don't think there's anybody on here that doesn't want him to face trial. But here's what you got to think about. We've got to hold the state to a burden, a higher burden than we hold the defense, because you don't want your mother, father, brother, or yourself to be placed in a situation where you are arrested for something you didn't do, and then they don't hold it to a higher standard. Now, like I said, I believe it, and I know you believe he's guilty, just because we've been watching a whole bunch of stuff he does on the outside. But unfortunately, none of the stuff that we've seen, like him trading cars, like him selling properties, all that stuff never will go into trial. It's too prejudicial. They'll never allow it. Uh, see. Yeah, I agree with you there. I agree with you. Let me tell you a situation, and you may let me see if you get this. I had a call back when I was in uniform before I went to narcotics. A guy was doing a lewd and lascivious act in a car in a parking lot of a crowded grocery store. And the person that saw him was did not want to press charges against him, would not testify. I don't want to get involved, but this guy's a sicko. He needs to go to jail. I pull up. He's in his car in his underwear. He's not doing anything that I can see, so I can't arrest him for that. I get him out of the car, and I said, put his pants on, get him out of the car. He's intoxicated. Not real bad, but intoxicated. I give him 5 field sobriety tests, and they arrest him for DUI and physical control. He had the keys in his pocket. He found guilty of DUI in city court, and they appealed it to county court, the jury trial. They would not let me say why I was there checking him. They would not let me tell what the call was. They wouldn't tell any of that because it's all prejudicial. The judge, the jury that would convict him, they didn't care if he had a drop to drink, if they knew that what he was doing in that parking lot that got me there in the first place. But that's what I'm saying. So a lot of this stuff where he buys new cars, new trucks, he's spending all this money and hot tub and doing all this stuff and try, you know what I mean? None of that will come in. None of it will come in. It's not relevant to the case that he's charged with. So we have seen all this stuff on the outside. We have seen how he acted or walking around his house with a gun while people are out searching for Suzanne. We have seen all that. None of that's coming in at trial. It's not coming in. It's too prejudicial. The judge will never let it come in. Now, the thing with the chipmunks, him shooting chipmunks, that will never come in either, because that's going to turn a jury. You have people on the jury say he's killed 75, 80 chipmunks around his house with a rifle and he catches cats too. I'm telling you, that will never come in, because a judge or jury will absolutely just go bonkers over that. That will never happen. Let's see. You were shocked that Barry and Suzanne so much cash in a gun safe where they could take out $70,000. I don't know if he's planning on skipping town or not. I think after now, of course he can't go anywhere now. But yes, Terry. And you know what? Him doing too? Him getting all female lawyers. That was very, very smart on the defense thing. And if it goes before a jury, that's going to be smart too, because it's going to look at that. He doesn't have a problem with females. He's got all lawyers there, all female lawyers. That's a jury thing. Um, Aaron, good to see you. Yeah, he's very condescending. He is a narcissistic, and I think he's guilty, but I'm not the judge, nor am I the jury. I'm simply saying that I was expecting a lot more evidence to come in on why he was arrested. And I really believe that most of the what was in the arrest report, well, they should have most of the 130 something page arrest report or affidavit. Let me get that straight. The arrest report probably one page. The affidavit should have been brought out in the prelim. I have actually sat on the stand and read the whole affidavit because that is what probable cause you got for arresting him. So, you know, that should have been out there in prelim. And I think the biggest thing they might have been worried about is the fact that Suzanne had an affair and they didn't want the girls to know all the details of that. Size of that very large. I'm sure 4 days limit could share. With the judge base the decision on entire. The judge cannot even is not put it this way. The judge is not supposed to judge any decision on the affidavit. None. The judge is supposed to only consider what is given in testimony during prelim or submitted into evidence. Now, if they submit the affidavit for evidence, yes, but I never heard that. He's not privy to the whole case report. He's not privy to all the investigation paperwork. He's supposed to. Um, That's why you have a prelim. It's a way for the defense to learn total discovery, a lot of discovery, and it's to decide whether you have enough to go to trial. Um, I don't think that the judge will have privy to the affidavit. I mean, he's not supposed to. He's not supposed to have anything other than what's presented by the witnesses at trial, period. And, you can't, he can't, they can't, they can't do it. They can't just, like I said before, the judge is a finder of fact. He is not an investigator, and he is not supposed to go into read all these stuff and then decide, well, yeah, he should because of this. He looks at what's presented to him at its prelim, and then based on those facts, he says or not if they have enough evidence to go to trial. That's it. And like I said, I wish that they would have broadcasted it over the airways so we all could have seen the mannerisms of the witnesses. Rick total heard absolutely everything, because that I hope that I'm missing something. I hope that I'm missing the fact that this is what they said when they went into this, and they said this, and this. Therefore, it's enough. But I think the whole DNA thing with this partial DNA belongs to a sex offender, unknown sexual assault offender, is huge. It's huge. Um, and I thought I had copied exactly. I did copy. Hey, y'all leave that cat alone. These 5 little pieces of notes here. Here it is, the top one. The matches are from Phoenix, Chicago, and Tempe, Arizona. Tempe case was looked into in December of 2020. Contacted investigator in charge. Attempted sexual assault outside a local convenience store. However, the Tempe case had 2 suspects. Well, so what does that mean? The judge is lost. He says many in the courtroom are confused. He's trying to get clarification. It is my understanding that the partial did not match the two primary suspects from Tempe case, according to another detective. There is no scientific proof that there isn't a match. He said, giving agents so and so multiple reports to review. Uh, Forensic scientists confirmed that a potential lead, not a perfect match. He explained. Now they are talking about another CODIS match from Suzanne Morphew's glove box that matched the phoenix from a sperm sample. He wasn't aware of a letter sent in November about it. So this is almost like they've got these matches and they're pursuing them as possible suspects. That's what I gather. There's no mention of Morphew. Says here, he talks about he didn't get the letter because he was on military leave. And the judge asked him, would you know about this Chicago case? Uh, and basically said they would be following it up. And CBI agents said that he was on military leave during that time. But to me, that looks like they were taking these DNA samples as possible suspects. Do you see that? I mean, do y'all agree with me on that? You know, I I don't know. That's what I see it as. They maybe felt like they had this DNA, so that these ought to be suspects. I don't know. I'm disappointed in it. I really am. Uh, I don't know what uh, I don't know what to think about it. Uh, Anybody else have an idea? I mean, I don't. Uh, you know, I just wish that they would have. Uh, Ever have anybody convicted of murder without any of that being established? I have never. No, and and let's just pretend for a second that we're sitting on the jury. We don't know nothing about anything that happened that we've heard about on social media. Nothing. We got Barry arrested for murder over here. And in the preliminary hearing, we don't hear nothing else. We hear that they found DNA on the glove box of her car, that a partial DNA that came back to a unknown suspect in some sexual assaults and some couple of major cities. And you heard there was an unknown DNA found on her bicycle. Would that create reasonable doubt in your mind? If we didn't know anything else, would that create reasonable doubt in your mind? I think it would. And of course, we don't know everything that was presented. You know, I don't know. Uh, you think that that's going to be enough? I mean, I have not heard. What I was hoping to hear. Well, your partial DNA, Maui, is this. It's not like having. All right, let's just, for instance, this is the best way I can explain it. Say there's a fingerprint on a gun that shot and killed somebody, but it's not a whole fingerprint. It's enough to tell whose fingerprint it is, though, because it shows the uh, the grooves, and it shows the way the finger goes. It shows the lands and grooves, they call it. It's enough to say whose identifying marks they are. The fingerprint is, but it's not the whole fingerprint. If they can identify the DNA, the partial DNA, is enough to identify this suspect. It's got the same partial DNA of a person that's wanted for rapes, an unknown offender. Then, if nothing else, I think it would be enough to make an arrest of that guy. I really do. If they could find him, I think it'd be enough. And it will be enough to create reasonable doubt. Um, in my opinion, it will be. Now, I hope it doesn't. I hope the judge knows something that we don't. I hope uh, you said, how can you dismiss all the behaviors? Because none of it was presented in the preliminary. Me and you know these things, but none of that stuff was presented that I can tell. I mean, if if the judge know everything that we know, then sure. If the judge knew that he sold this property like he did and bought all these trucks and houses and moved around, and he, had somebody follow it out the dress up and follow, you know what I mean? Uh, if the judge knew, but the judge doesn't look at all that. He can only look at what is presented to him in evidence. That's all. He can't look at the arrest reports. He can't look at the case reports. I have never given a judge a copy of my case report. Never. Not 33 years. In fact, the only way the defense can get a copy of my case report is if I bring a copy of the report up on the stand. If I bring it up on the stand, it becomes evidence. Then the defense can look at it, the judge can look at it, the jury can look at it. But, yeah, if it goes to a jury trial, absolutely. The jury will be instructed what reasonable doubt is by the judge in jury instructions. Also, the defense attorney will read what reasonable doubt is. And the way it is right now in society, we don't want to put guilty people in jail. You don't want to send somebody not guilty people in jail. You don't want to send somebody to jail for the rest of their life if they truly not, there is reasonable doubt. And, but because I believe he's guilty, but it's what you can prove. It's what you can prove. And I hate it. I really hate that something bigger wasn't brought out. I was hoping they had evidence found in his truck. I was hoping they had his data from his phone leading them out in the boonies somewhere that he hunts, that he might, they may feel like he did. I was waiting for something from a friend that said, oh, yeah, he threatened to kill her, or he knew about this affair, or something. I was hoping there'd be somebody that had a witness that maybe helped him dispose of the body and agreed to flip over for the state. I mean, I didn't hear anything from, at least I didn't see anything that was written down from Lauren that said the state is testifying to the fact that, they got his GPS and whatever. I didn't hear any of that. So maybe by Thursday I can find that out. I'm going to do what I can to try to contact Lauren and try to see if I'm missing something. I hope that I am. I'm hoping that I find out, oh yeah, oh man, they tied him down that he lied about this, lied about that, or he was over here when he's supposed to be over there, or that or maybe she told the girlfriend that he beat her up one time, or he told the girlfriend he threatened to kill her. There was some testimony, I think, about him going and getting her in a closet, putting a gun to his head, not hers, and saying, "You want this? You want this?" Listen, I mean, if I could tell you how many times I've been to a domestic where that's happened, the guy puts a gun to his head and says, "You really want me out of your life? I'll do it right now." You know, Sometimes it really happens, but it is a probable cause. That is correct. It is preliminary hearing is based on probable cause. That is correct. They've got to establish probable cause, not reasonable suspicion. And and like I said, there's not anybody here, maybe AK or Gonzo, a few of you here, maybe feel like I do. I feel like he's guilty, but you got to be able to prove it. And you know, uh, well, it they didn't. From what I saw, now is this, and this is my problem. None of the stuff that me and you know from just following this case and seeing all what he's done uh, is what I heard from Lauren. Uh, no, probable cause is not a low bar. It's not. It's not a low bar. Reasonable suspicion is low bar. Probable cause is I see somebody on the street corner go into a convenience store with a gun in his hand, and they rob the place without me seeing them. I can't see all of it. They go in the store with a gun in his hand, and he runs out. I can arrest him because I have pretty much probable cause he robbed that store. If I saw him, I would have direct knowledge. If he's got the gun in his pocket and he goes in the store, a guy runs out of the store and he never see the gun or anything, maybe a whole bunch of people run out and he's one of the guys with a gun. It's reasonable suspicion I could stop everybody and talk to him. It's not probable cause that I could arrest him. You got to be able to. The judge doesn't have to hear a conviction, but he does have to hear a preponderance of evidence. That's what it's called, a preponderance of evidence. And no, I don't believe the DA is foolish either. I'm just saying, did I miss something? Y'all tell me, did I miss something? Because if Lauren wrote down and I read every single tweet she did, every one of them. I spent basically 3 days in front of this computer, and this is live. I didn't go back and read all that stuff. I took and stayed in and read every single one of them. Made some comments and stuff too. But I felt like that wasn't that aha moment that I felt like that I could say, well, he's going to be convicted. In fact, it was almost the other way around. I told Medina, I said, I'm really, really concerned that they didn't present enough evidence for trial. I hope so. I hope they did. I hope we can get it before jury, and then I hope they get their ducks in a row where it's more than just, because I'm telling you, the biggest thing that hurt this case and threw a big wrench into it is when you bring up DNA from a darn sex offender, even if it is only partial DNA. To me, that is huge, and I can just see the defense attorneys doing high fives over this, because that is a big way to create reasonable doubt, unless they can say, well, Barry was in cahoots and he hired this guy. Maybe they can do that later on. Or maybe Barry was in cahoots some way with this person, or this guy assisted him. Hey, there's possibility. And he has been caught in a bunch of lies, Debbie, but can we get this thing before them? I don't know. Now, if they do, you're right. If they do the judge says, we got enough, let's present it to a grand jury. A lot of times, a prelim, they'll take it straight to a grand jury. 19 in Alabama, it's 19 men and women. If they indict him, then of course he will go to trial. But a lot of times too, but if the judge says there's not enough to take it to trial, all that stuff it won't be presented to a grand jury. He can dismiss the case for that matter. But see, I don't know how in Colorado. Somebody said I disagree. Amber E, I disagree on DNA. They didn't have an expert on the stand. Yeah. It's just what the judge believes, though, If the judge believes that, okay, well, they didn't have an expert on the stand, I'm going to not really consider that DNA, then they'll send it. Listen, you're preaching to the choir. I want him to go to trial. I want him to get indicted. I want him to serve time in prison the rest of his life. I wish they had the death penalty, because if somebody murders somebody for money, that is a death penalty offense in any state that has a death penalty. Classic. But I just would love to have heard them say, Barry was over here and this, this time frame was wrong, and we found blood, or we found maybe hair, or we found, there's a lot of circumstantial stuff. They made a deal out of it that all the bed linens was off of Mallory's bed. But then they came back and they found a note in Suzanne's handwriting saying that she made a list of what she needed to do. And it said, basically strip the sheets in Mallory's room, getting it ready for them or whatever. Downly concerned the judge is going to dismiss lack of evidence because it keeps the arrest affidavit sealed. Not necessarily. He's going to rule on that next time, though. And I don't really see why not, because you basically put out there about the arrest report. What's in the arrest affidavit should have been, at least the highlights should have been presented in your prelim. Thanks, AK. I appreciate it, buddy. The judge on the bench wrote the arrest warrant, so doesn't that believe that's enough evidence? Not necessarily. They may have enough probable cause to arrest, but they may not have enough probable cause to take it to trial, if that makes any sense. We can all pray that it does send it to trial. AK, I really appreciate that, buddy. I really do. And if y'all know, AK's got a new, well, he doesn't have a new. He has a YouTube channel where he's doing live streams. Is that correct, AK? And I don't have that with me right now. If you want to post that, you have my full permission to post that. If somebody has it and can bring it up, I'll be good to go with it. He signed he did. Well, it's good that he did. A lot of times the judge that signs the warrant will not do the prelim, but he is a district. I know you didn't, AK, and I'm just telling you, I subscribe to your channel, and I want others to also. And I know you didn't do that for that. I don't think that at all, really. We can hope and pray that he does. I think one thing, him waiting until the 17th, that he wants to really be sure. Now, I got a request for y'all. Well, I got two things. One is, I got supper. My supper time tonight is 8 o'clock, and I'm late, so I haven't eaten all day hardly. I'm trying to lose some weight, um, so I'm kind of watching my diet. Two, I've got two friends that have COVID, and one of them just had the IV infusion today, and they're not doing good from it. They have a lot of pain from it, and I would ask you to pray for Debbie and Sam. If y'all could do that for me, keep them in your prayers. They both have COVID, and they're not doing well at all. And well, a lot of other people are out there with COVID too. We should be praying for them. I know some of you on here may have COVID or have recovered from it, and we ask that you be praying for everyone on here that does. It's an evil disease, in my opinion. Um, it is almost demonic, and I'm going to say that it just is. It just seems like, man, this year or last year too. It's just you get COVID, and then there's just something else. I mean, it just, it's just bad. And Rhonda said your sister has COVID here with me, praying that she's taking the regenerative therapy Thursday. Yeah, and that IV treatment or whatever, apparently it causes some of the muscles to ache and stuff. So, you know, take that in mind. If you can get your doctor to give you something for that, more than just aspirin, that would be great. From what I've seen, um, you know, um, but I would appreciate if you would keep them in your prayers, please. And we pray for everybody nightly, and we ask that you continue to pray. This COVID just thing is I don't know what's going to stop it. They're doing more and more variants are coming out. It's like it's never ending, and so I don't know how you feel, vaccine, non-vaccine. I don't want to talk about that. I'm not going to talk about it. There's opinions on both sides, and but anyway, pray for those that are hurting, and uh, pray for those that are hurting and suffering with it. Because I know one thing: we have a great physician. God's a great physician, and in all due time, that's what I'm saying. We're just praying to God that please, help us and protect us, and that's what we can do. All right. Well, I'm going to go if you don't mind. And Thursday, I had three other cases to discuss with y'all. One, I'm going to give you a little thing about it. Hopefully, something will come up by Thursday. We know more about this with the Suzanne Morphew and Berry. But one thing is, I've got another case I want to talk to you about where these two kids are staying with their grandmother and grandfather, and their house caught on fire and burnt to the ground, and the kids are gone. They disappeared, and they've actually been missing a few years, but they have some uh, age progression picture, but it's just the weirdest case I've ever heard of. They've sent 6 or 7 teams in there to try to find even a tooth of one of these kids to kind of rule it out, but they haven't been able to. But it's a weird case. But anyway, it's a couple other cases to go with it. Appreciate everybody doing. If they want to mash thumbs up, if you like it, thumbs down. If you don't, hey, I'm open both ways. And if you could check out my other channel, the RV channel, we're still standing around 600 and 20 something, 30 something subscribers. We would appreciate if you would go over and subscribe to our channel. I would very much appreciate it. And we hope to catch back up with you on Thursday. and